Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Back to Brilliance podcast. We're your hosts, Henry and Joseph. Thanks for tuning in. We ask that wherever you listen, that you would subscribe, leave a comment, a review. It helps great people like you find our podcast. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our message for the day. Today, we're talking about our topic is about owning your path, commitment, clarity, and valuing your time. And with that, I want to introduce our co-host, Joseph. Say what's up, Joseph, and take it away, brother.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so pretty much being intentional whenever you make a decision, being clear about your intentions, and valuing your time, right? If you don't value your time, no one else will.
Very true, bro. Yeah, no, it's being committed. A lot of times we start things, and we're committed in the beginning, but as things get tough, sometimes we fall away. And I think that comes from not having that clarity. So, clarity is important, and valuing your time, when you're doing for others, or even, it's like you have to value your time so others will value your time,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to kick off the first point or the first topic, which is don't get ahead of yourself when trying to get into things, right? So really know what you're signing up for. Don't just hear it and then respond. Hear it, take it in, think about it, and then make a decision. Even if it's like a forced or a quick decision, make an informed decision.
Okay. Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of times we put the cart before the horse, but you're right. Make an informed decision, is important. Definitely.
Yeah. And the value of that, or the reason why I'm harping on this is, a lot of people around me, and I've even done it before, but you can make a decision that you think you're making, but it's not actually you don't know the full extent of what you're saying, right? There's people that get into marriages because they don't know what they're signing up for. People will get into contracts with a phone company. People will sign up for a car loan at a ridiculous amount of interest, right? It's because they don't know what they're getting themselves into.
No, and that's happened, bro, many times. I've made those mistakes in certain things, where I thought, oh, it was going to be this, and it turned out to be that, So you're right, bro. Don't get ahead of yourself. When getting into things, always read the fine print. Always look into it so that you understand what's required of you.
Yeah, definitely. And just knowing the full details of what you're doing, right? Really, really inform yourself. Like Henry just said, look into it. There was a point whenever I was going to therapy, and one of the questionnaires was like, "Are you open to new medication?" And whenever I was responding to my therapist, I was like, "Hey, I'm down. I'm open to it, but give me a session or two before I make a decision. Don't make me sign up for any medication on the spot, because the answer will always be no."
Yeah, that goes back to the thing, almost like the fear. If you don't do it now, they put that pressure on you, and they try to make you feel rushed into making a decision. So anytime you feel in that, my advice always is, okay, well, I'll give you my answer tomorrow. Go back, sleep on it, take some time to think about it, before you make that big decision. Even small decisions, it isn't always the big decisions, even the small little ones, because all that compounds, right? So always take your time, that's the point.
Yeah, don't rush into making a decision because others want you to or will force you to, right? I've even had an ex-girlfriend. Well, she wasn't an ex. It was something. Well, I won't get into it, but
friend. Okay.
Yeah. Well, people nowadays, they call it a situationship. It's like the cusp of a relationship, but not really. You haven't it doesn't matter. But
right.
So she was saying oh well, she was basically trying to force me into being in a relationship with her, or she was trying to pressure me on asking her out. And that in itself made me not want to ask her out. It's why are you in a rush to get in a relationship? If we're meant to be long term, it doesn't matter if I ask you now or in a month or two from now, right? Because we have unlimited time together. So, it's almost like a way for people to have control in your decision. And especially whenever you're an entrepreneur, you want to make the decision because you want to make the decision. Or there's a fighter who says like no one can force my hand. I will make the decision when I'm ready to, right? There will be a lot of times where in a fight people will try to egg him on to make him throw a punch, but he won't fall for it because he knows whenever he wants to throw a punch. He's not throwing a punch because he's reacting to what you're doing.
No, I get you. That's a good analogy there. It comes down to that clarity, right? Just knowing and being in control of the situation, and really just that's part of protecting and valuing your time. You know what I mean? So when people try to force you to do something, it's because they want it on their timetable. They want things on their merits, so it's got to work both ways. So if you find yourself in those positions, just step back, take time, and get a little clarity.
Yeah, definitely. And listen to your gut. That's like one of the biggest things that I've learned in the past year or two is your gut is it's usually right? 9 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, it's right. There's just, especially the more you listen to yourself, the more that sense gets honed. That's my personal opinion, and that's been my personal experience. Where now, like, even if I don't want to go somewhere because my gut doesn't tell me to, I don't follow it. There was one time where, again, an ex-girlfriend that I did end up living with at the time. But whenever we didn't live together, I had to go travel to where she was, and there was a really, really bad storm. It was extremely high winds, a lot of rain. It was heavy, heavy rain. Places were getting flooded. And as I was going over there, as I was on the interstate, something in the back of my head was just like, don't go, don't go. So I pulled over, and the storm got even worse. And so I got super stressed out. I pulled over, or I got off the interstate, pulled into a parking lot, and basically sat in my car for like 20 minutes because the storm got even worse, right? And so there were a lot of people that got stuck in the rain, that got their cars flipped over. It was a really bad storm. And had I not listened to my gut, I could have been one of those cars.
Yeah, no, definitely, bro. And that's the thing, I think that's a gift that's been given to us, the intuition, that gut feeling, if it doesn't feel right, listen to your gut, take that time, because it could save you, like it saved Joseph here, it's a lot of times we're always in that rush mode. And again, it's not because of us, it's because of other people. Like your story, you're going to see her. If you didn't, it's like, maybe a potential argument or something, but had you did, maybe you wouldn't be here, so thank God you listened to your gut and took that time to get that clarification and just sit tight, and you're here, bro, so
yeah. And so that leads us into our next topic, which is people are only as committed as they want to be, right? That common phrase, you could lead a horse to water, but
right,
will they drink it? Yes or no? Maybe not.
Very true, bro. And that's a true saying, and like people are only committed as they want to be. And a lot of times, they're only committed by convenience, right? What's convenient to them. When you're building something, as it takes effort, it takes the community, it takes, multiple people. So when you're building something, it's like you need the contribution of everybody, not just them putting everything on you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I'm sure we've all been there with like school projects or even work projects, right? Like your boss or your teacher will be like, hey, this is a team effort, but really it becomes a you effort, and, not only does that show your character, right? Because you step up to the plate, but that also shows other people's level of commitment. And so it could even be as simple as wanting to like go to a restaurant, right? Or like making plans with friends. I've been in a situation where I wanted to hang out with my friends, but my friends didn't want to hang out. And so they all kind of made like their own excuses as to why they didn't want to show up because they weren't committed to the plan.
Yeah, and that happens. It's funny because, you know, people are never committed, but they're always ready to take the credit. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a famous thing that a lot of inventors that they invented something, but the marketer gets all the credit.
right.
And I was talking to a friend yesterday about this very topic, and I told them even if you give people a paved road, some people will still choose to walk through the mud, or even if they have a road, they might take a couple steps and then get off the road.
Very true, bro. And a lot of times, for whatever reason, they do those things, but it comes down to the commitment, right? Like they have to be committed. And so, like, that's a good analogy. If you give them a paved road, you provide everything for them, you know, sometimes they just don't appreciate it. You know what I mean? So that's what we're talking about. Like they choose to still walk through the mud. So it's like, you know, protecting and valuing your time, protecting, staying clear with your message and everything you're trying to do. Just stay committed, because people, they're not as committed as you are.
Yes, and like Henry has said, I'm not too sure if you said that on the podcast, but those who don't pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing with commitment. If you give them every single tool and you pay for it, they have no attachment to it. They have no, like Henry said earlier, it's out of convenience for them. And whenever it's out of convenience and not out of necessity or survival, they're not going to be attached to it at all.
It's sad, bro, because like, you're doing it from your heart, to bless somebody, with, even whatever it is, whether, it's going out on a trip or it's buying them a meal or paying a bill for them, whatever it is, you know what I mean? But sometimes people just don't truly appreciate, so got to protect your time, man.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And some people will act invested, but their actions won't actually align with it, right? So, you'll have a lot of people that will be like, "Yeah, I'm down, I'm down." An example, and not to call any of my friends out because my friends are amazing, but whenever I went down this endeavor with my business or my company that I formed this year, I reached out to my like inner circle of friends, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get my A team on it. I'm gonna get every single person that I care about in on this endeavor because I care about them, and this is a very fruitful endeavor. I know the value of what I'm doing, and it's really unlimited. It's crazy the earning potential of what I've gotten into, and so." Again, I wanted to pull my friends into it because I was like, hey, I know that they could really dive into it if they wanted to, but I paid for everything. I upfronted everything. I gave them a whole paved road. All they needed to do was walk down the road with me, and only one person stuck around.
Yeah, that happens, bro. You know what I mean? Sometimes we just want it more for them than they want it for themselves, So
Yep.
it's heartbreaking, like you said, you put the investment out, the initial upfront costs, you did everything, and then they come back with excuses, so it just makes you wonder why people do these things, but the important thing is that like staying committed, to your mission, finding that clarity. Again, you're going to deal with these people, they come, they go. That's the one thing that I've learned in my life is that like, some of the people as you're going up and you're doing things and you're, taking action and making moves, not everybody's going to be able to hang on, So with that, it's just staying committed, is my key takeaway is stay committed to what you're doing.
Yeah, and also just find peace in knowing that you're the committed one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I told myself. Like, I had my quote unquote A team. I had my closest circle of friends in on it. And again, only one stuck around. And so at one point, I was a little bit bummed out. Not truly, because I kind of figured, like, I thought maybe two or three of them would stick around, but I knew that not all five would. But I was more so patting myself on the back because, we're 4 months into this, and I started this endeavor January 13th of this year of 2025, in case you're watching in the future. But and I'm 3 months into it now, and I feel so amazing that I have stuck with it because, again, I'm finding peace and strength in the fact that I've stuck with it, even though everyone else around me has dropped.
And it's not easy, bro. You know what I mean? Like you have to find that motivation, and staying committed, because a lot of times that does happen, right? We start going down the road, it's all like cool and everything's going good, but then the road starts going uphill and now you're like, oh man, this is getting tough, this is getting hard, so that's where you will lose those people, when the rubber meets the road, you know what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of times, like the things that you did, I mean, putting out the finances to pay for all the, whatever it is, and, thinking, oh man, this is going to be a good deal, and they're nowhere to be found, and that leads us to our next point, is you got to value your time, so that others will see it and value your time.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of so this is just me. Whenever sometimes I will personally isolate myself if I'm not feeling great. But this time I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go all in on this because traditionally I have had struggles going all in on stuff. But again, because I know the potential of what I've gotten into, I was like, okay, I'm going to like completely shut off social media. I'm going to not play games for a month until I get my first client. That's like pretty much what I told myself. So like, all of the typical things I would do to kill time, I completely took that, or like I completely detoxed from all of that. And I even had a couple of my friends who were in that group be like, "Hey, bro, what's going on? Like, you good?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm good." But it's because I value my time so much now that I was not gonna give my time away to like, "Hey, bro, let's play some games. Hey, bro, let's go hang out." Obviously, there's a balance in that, but for that a short amount of time from February up until pretty much like last week, I took that barrier off. So April, or from February to April, I just completely like quote unquote sprinted, as I like to call it.
That's good, bro. That's very true what you're saying, and something that I always say to my kids is like, you know, whether you do something or you do nothing, a year is still going to pass, So like you don't want to find yourself in the same position you were last year, next year, because then that's 2 years that have passed by, So definitely value your time, do something every day. It's easy to get caught up in the just passing time, So definitely value your time. Don't just give it away, and or waste it, because you only have one life to live, and it's now. It's not a dress rehearsal for someday. It's now.
Yeah, there was a quote, I forgot where it originated from, but pretty much it was saying, "Those who plan never had intentions of doing." And so, or those who prepare, something along those lines. And that was so true to myself because there was a point for the longest time where I would make like the best plan ever, but I would never execute it. I would take like a month or two to make like, I would just make the perfect schedule, the perfect plan. But like Henry says, like just make a version one. Version one will be so terrible, it doesn't even matter because you're going to make version two and version three and version four.
Right.
And that's what it's about.
Yeah, you're right, bro. The cemetery is full of people that plan, bro, and never did, That's one of the things as you get older and you talk to people. I like to ask older people than me out on a golf course, like, they're in their 70s, 80s, and I'm like, yeah, I'm 49. On there, you're young punk. You're still young, and I just laugh. I'm like, no, no, dude, you got a long time. But I like to ask those questions because, like, what are your regrets, and they'll share and stuff like that. But a lot of them are like, I didn't take that chance, dude. I just played it safe, So, like, it's not a fun road when you just play things safe. You have to get out there and enjoy and try different things, so don't just waste your time or give it away, and make something with it, because this is the time now, so definitely stay committed, find that clarity and keep going,
Yeah, definitely. And this is for all the entrepreneurs, and this is something that my life coach told me whenever I was first trying to start really taking freelancing and all of that seriously, or my own business seriously. And he was saying that if you don't value your time, or if you don't value your business like an actual 9 to 5, no one else will, right? So let's say you just formed a company, or you're being an entrepreneur, you're like me, 3 months into that. A lot of people, they're still gonna assume, oh, he doesn't care, or like, oh, he's free because, oh, he's doing YouTube for a living, right? They'll have these narratives about it, but it's like, hey, bro, like I'm as serious as you are with your 9 to 5.
It's funny, dude, you say that because when I ventured out on my own and started my business, it was all rah rah rah. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," boom boom boom. Fast forward a couple years later, you have ups and downs in business, and I see people a few years later, and they're, this is their comment was like, "You still doing that thing you were doing?" I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"That thing? You mean business and growing? Yeah, I'm still doing that thing." So it's, people are like that. And the thing that I come to realize is most people don't really even care about what you're doing. They're more concerned about themselves, and like, even so with that, it's like, you got to stay even more committed to it, because you're right. Nobody's going to, tell you what to do or the ways to do it, because they don't know where you're at, So my point is that, like, you have to stay committed, to what you started, and if it's not serving you, just find out where the problem is, and that comes down to that clarity. So just get clear on it,
Yeah, definitely. And being an entrepreneur is rewarding because you made it what it is, and no one else can take that away from you, right? Like, if you're an employee in a company, yes, and this is not to talk negatively about being a high level employee of the company, but the saying, and I believe it for myself, but if you're not working towards your goals, you're working towards someone else's.
Right.
And so being an entrepreneur for your own company, for your own business, you've made it. You've made it what it is. So have confidence and belief, and insert another positive word, but like, just pat yourself on the back because you've built it to be what it is, not some person who came before you or whatever the case may be. It is all built off of your own will.
That's sweat equity, bro. You got to put it in. It's not going to come overnight. A lot of times, when you see these companies that look like overnight success, you go back and you talk to them and you're like, no, dude, this is 20 years in the grind, 10 years in the grind, in the making and stuff like that. So, yeah, being an entrepreneur does have its benefits. It is rewarding. There's good, but also on the other side, it's sometimes you have those tough hardships, but the overall outcome is it's on your terms, so it's up to you. And I think that the opportunities that come is because you're creating those opportunities. It's not like a job, a job, you go 9 to 5, they tell you what to do, what needs to be done, and then you just do it, right? And in some cases, some jobs are good, they pay well and you can do a side business and you're happy, right? But for those that want to seek more and get out there, and pave the road. Being an entrepreneur brings about, the rewards with it. So with that, again, we just want to encourage you to own your own path, stay committed. And, if you're not sure where you're at right now, just sit down and jot down 3 things, that like you're struggling with, put it down on paper, and you're going to start to see the clarity form of where the issue is, and you can deal with it. Value your time because others won't. And with that, don't let others try to push you into things, and force you to do things that they want to, do things on your terms, help people that you can along the road, but you got to stay committed to your mission and your value. So with that, I want to ask Joseph if you have anything to add to that, bro, upon closing this out.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say, for anyone that is an entrepreneur, you're doing a good job. And just to keep going with it, right? Really value what you're doing, because the more you value it, the harder you'll push for it, right? That's why marriages work sometimes whenever they do. It's because both people want it to succeed, right? So really value what you're doing, really own the path that you're on, and just be clear with what you're doing day to day.
Very well said, bro. Thank you for those kind words. And with that, guys, this concludes our episode. We want to thank you for listening and tuning into our podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment wherever you listen. It helps great people like you find our podcast. And with that, we're out. Stay blessed.
Bye-bye.